Yeah, well, you'll be happy to know that both trainers are running that Urshifu Rapid Strike, but we'll start off this top 8 match here at the European International Championships between Luca and Alex with the accolades of these players. We'll start with Luca in the ECU IC 2023 Top 16, the 2027 Turin Special Event Champion, and a 2x Day 2 Worlds Qualifier.
And over on the other end, we of course do have Alex Gómez, 2023 North American International Champion, and he's got so many accomplishments, even outside of this bracket here. World's top 8 in 2019, the UK National Champion of 2016, back when we used to have those coveted national championships, and as well as the Leon result too. But going into then the matchup, we've discussed a bit about the unique sort of Pokemon that can be found generally through the meta. There's nothing too surprising from either trainer, which just goes to show the consistency of being able to reach this far. However, what are your first initial impressions about any sort of key players that these trainers may want to rely on?
Well, I think when you look at it, I think one of the things that Luca has at his disposal is the Amoonguss. I think that's a huge part of Luca's team. Obviously, the Fluttermane as well. You can look at this. It's going to have the speed advantage, booster energy as well. You've got to presume that it might be boosting that speed stat to allow it to execute those icy winds a lot freer to support things like that Urshifu, things like maybe even the Raging Bolt, but in particular that Hearth Flame Ogerpon, which has got access to Stomp and Tantrum, has got access to the Power Whip, more powerful moves than we're normally used to seeing, and then that huge, big fire-type attack, Ivy Cudgel, as well, because of the Hearth Flame Mask.
It is interesting because there's no redirection that has been dropped for the Stomping Tantrum, as you have that guaranteed grass type move, but there's also the Raging Bolt. There's normally on the AV sets, we actually see Snarl being an option, but Thunderbolt replacing that means that you don't want to have to rely on that priority Thunderclap in order to guarantee an attack, let's say, into a Tornadus that may be preferring to go for a Tailwind in order to avoid the Thunderclap.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the thing that you would look out for on Alex's side of the field when we do take a quick overview here, the Rillaboom, Incineroar, such a common pairing this weekend, some interesting item choices on there as well. The Urshifu Rapid Strike with that Fire Terra typing, the Raging Bolt there with the Protect, with that Calm Mind, plays very nicely with the Rillaboom, the Incineroar, the pivoting Fake Out support, then the Chen Pao and that Goldingo.
Yeah, and I think Goldingo, it sort of fluctuates between the different Terra types that it has available based around the team that you have built. So having the Fairy typing here allows it to be able to at least resist the Dark type Urshifus. However, the Chen Pao, Lee, has Clear Amulet, and it has Fire Terra type, something you do not commonly see at all.
Yeah, it's a really good option against Intimidate, and particularly because of the ability to avoid the Intimidate drop, and also the Terrestrialization that gives you the immunity to potential Will-O-Wisp, which is picking up a lot of momentum here. So yeah, I like the options here. The Fire typing on that Urshifu as well is really good for those options as well. You know, the Will-O-Wisp from the opposing Incineroar is something that you have to keep an eye out for.
Yeah, and we do have, of course, a couple of highlights from Alex's previous matches going up against Arash Omati, of course, a previous world champion to his own accord for the EU region in what was a very tough matchup. But then again, of course, Alex being able to go through and have further battles against top-notch players.
Yeah, you know, coming off the back of the loss here was really unfortunate at the deeper end of the tournament as well for Alex, especially, you know, 5-0 at that stage, but has only dropped another 2 games after this set, which is incredible to think of the amount of games that have been played. But we did get to feature a little bit of Alex during yesterday's broadcast, which was good to see. We got a bit of insight into his team, how he wants to play it, how he's going to utilize some of the tools that he's got access to. So we'll be able to have a further deeper dive here in this match. And in particular, it's going to be interesting to see how Luca sets up against Alex coming off that victory that he's just had in that round 15.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be very important going into the actual dynamics of the matchup itself. Unfortunately, we hadn't been able to feature it. We don't have as much information as we would have liked, but we just do know that these trainers, they're going to be playing at a lower level of mind games than either anyone tuning in for it will be able to be aware of, because there's so much that could have gone into the game itself. You've got different calculations, you've got identifying speed benchmarks, but we're gonna have to see what will happen first. Ahead of everything, game one of our first top 8, and we have Luca leading with the Fluttermane and Ogerpon Halflame versus Alex's Raging Bolt and the Rillaboom.
Yeah, it's a really evenly matched up lead here from both trainers. You got the Fluttermane, it is going to get that speed boost here. It's going to put a lot of pressure onto that Raging Bolt. It's just getting that booster energy activated as well to give a special attacking boost. The Rillaboom going to have access to the Fake Out, of course, this turn, going to be able to use that and prevent the Ogerpon from doing anything this turn. So maybe it gives Luca the opportunity to switch that out and bring something else in to alleviate the pressure there, keep that Ogerpon for later on. But then if you do that, you've got to be careful with your Fluttermane. It might be a reason why we're seeing Luca just switch it out, keep it in the back for later on.
Yeah, having that offensive pressure straight off the bat from Alex's side is so crucial in order to force these defensive instant plays. Amoonguss now on the field, whilst we actually also see a switch out of the Photosynthesis boosted Pokemon, now bringing in the Incineroar. So Raging Bolt and the Fluttermane, they are completely out of their item usage as we got the Ivycultural Focus into the Rillaboom. Deals so much damage, not quite enough to pick up the KO, and it actually does try to target down what was previously the Fluttermane to get that instantaneous KO.
Trading blows straight away as we come out the blocks here in this first turn. The Ivycultural into that Rillaboom, but nice switch there from Alex, alleviating the damage with the Intimidate from the Incineroar. And again, nice play from Luca, suspecting the Woodhammer into that Fluttermane slot, bringing the Amoonguss in to sponge that up nicely. Bit of really even here. Alex has the Fake Out into the Ogerpon here, so it gives the Rillaboom a little bit of room. But doing that, you kind of leave the Amoonguss open to spore that Incineroar, so you got to be very careful this turn.
Yeah, you really do, because you do know at least that there's an initial threat of being able to target down with a Flare Blitz from the Incineroar too, so there's a couple of mind games going into this, no doubt. However, Alex does have Fake Out pressure immediately available, but Luca was at least able to try to hold and safeguard that Fluttermane for the mid towards end game, as it's actually now being switched in for the Ogerpon, so doing a very similar strategy there as well.
Lots of switching from both sides of the field here. The Fluttermane coming in to hopefully catch a Fake Out onto that side of the field, and the Raging Bolt returning as well. Will-O-Wisp coming out, and it is into.
Wow, it's into the Raging Bolt. You want to go for the side burn in order to avoid a Spore into the slot. Really nice touch there from Alex. However, the Spore for Alex, unfortunately, does not target down that Raging Bolt. It goes for the Incineroar. Luca being aware of the availability of utility that the Incineroar has to its prowess.
That's an incredible play from Alex, just to make sure that you get the Raging Bolt in. You don't want it to go to sleep, so you burn it instead. A really great play. Fortunately, the Incineroar was the target from Luca with that Spore. Now the Incineroar has to spend a few turns asleep. The Raging Bolt in a position where it's not in a great spot against this Fluttermane that will be able to threaten. Now both of these Pokemon have lost their booster energies. More importantly, for the Raging Bolt, because it's not going to be as hitting as hard without that special attack boost, whereas the Fluttermane only had the speed boost. It's going to naturally outspeed both of these things on Alex's side of the field anyway, so could fire off maybe an Icy Wind or just take advantage of this situation right now and start launching off something like a Moonblast.
And the Raging Bolt does have the potential of getting Calm Mind set up, maybe in future turns. However, I think Alex is identifying that Raging Bolt is going to be such a key player for himself. He just needs to make sure that he gets rid of this Fluttermane and stops allowing this Amoonguss to get away with any sort of spores, as the Moonblast will be dispatching of the Rillaboom. So all of a sudden, Alex does lose a very pivotal Pokemon to his core 3 of Fire, Water, Grass. Sludge Bomb targets down the Urshifu. No Spore reads from Luca. It will be able to deal respectable damage. Most importantly, does not pick up a poison. However, we know that the Urshifu is Mystic Water. It does not have Choice Stuff. It will not be able to instantly outspeed this Fluttermane. So Alex is in a bit of a spot. He needs to support that Urshifu.
Yeah, it does have the Terastallization here, which will alleviate that threat from the Moonblast on the Fluttermane. But again, by doing that, you're committing your Terastallization, and you're also susceptible to the Spore. You haven't got any real way to deal with the Amoonguss. The Spore into the Incineroar really shuts down your one outlet to be able to deal with the Little Mushroom, and it's very difficult for Alex in this spot with just the Raging Bolt. the Incineroar and the Urshifu left.
Yeah, because you don't have that instant pressure with the Raging Bolt, and since Amoonguss is available for redirection, you can't exactly go for a Thunderclap in a very safe manner. However, to switch out from the Flutter Mane.
Yeah, and we are going to see the Fluttermane retreat for later on in this game, and match for match, the Urshifu on Luca's side going to come out, be a contender to go up against what looks like might be the Terastallization on Alex's Urshifu here, turning into that Terrifier type. Perfect switch from Luca, because next turn, those Surging Strikes on Luca's side of the field are going to really threaten both the Urshifu now that is it Fire type and the Incineroar that is fast asleep.
Oh, yeah, and actually focusing with the Surging Strikes here is such a nice switch in. Luca seems like he's actually one step ahead at the current moment, being able to have that really good insight to the board state itself. However, Incineroar, of course, will be taking its turn of sleep. Amoonguss is so free to pick up a Spore and will be now putting Urshifu to sleep, resulting to the point where Alex already has passive actions from his place that he can't even take advantage of.
Yeah, now the Amoonguss free to just go for the Sludge Bomb and to either target here the Raging Bolt if it does decide to switch in at this point. Won't appreciate taking one of those, and now you're free to Terastallize with your own Urshifu if you're Luca, because you've got two fire types in front of you. Even again, if the Raging Bolt comes in like we're seeing here, it's not going to appreciate a water Terastallize boosted Surging Strikes.
So, I mean, I don't think a lot of things would be appreciating those, but we do get confirmation, like you mentioned, Lee, there, the Terastallization. So, Luca opting to go for the full offensive pressure right now.
Yeah, and we are going to see that Terastallization. Where's the Surging Strikes going? Is it heading into that Incineroar? And it is. One hit. 2 hit, well, 3 hits will probably be needed here, I would imagine.
Yeah, I would imagine indeed, as if we did get confirmation, just barely being the case, even though it is going to be able to have the water terastallization. But most importantly right now, the Amoonguss. Does it go for another Spore, or does it try to go on the offensive with Sludge Bomb? It actually opts to go on the offensive. We know that the Rage Bolt, it's burnt. It can't fall susceptible to a poison status. However, the Amoonguss has not been patched off over on Luca's side. Luca's just been able to essentially show a masterclass in this game one.
Yeah, and it's going to be very difficult here because you can't, like you say, lock into that Thunderclap because you've got the Rage Powder from the Amoonguss there. The Urshifu coming back in from Alex is asleep. It is rendered useless at the moment. Very susceptible to the Urshifu as well. A Surging Strike into that slot will be enough to pick it up. And the only real option you can see for Alex here is probably going down the Calm Mind route and hoping that you're able to get a couple of those maybe set up or one of those set up and then dispatch of the Amoonguss. But then the whole time you've got to worry about that Urshifu that has Terastallized. And even if the Surging Strikes aren't effective, they're still going to be doing a lot of damage. Have you got enough time to be able to set up, get rid of the Amoonguss? I don't think so. It feels very, very tough for Alex in this one moment, but we've seen stranger things happen, Costa.
We most definitely have, Lee, as we do get the forfeit from Alex in that game one. Luca picking that up and being one step closer over to a spot in the semi-finals. And what a way to be able to kick things off. Alex, like we mentioned, had lost the previous set before top 8, so there are a lot of additional factors that he must be taking into consideration, and maybe he can't have a really good way in being able to break down that Amoonguss and Ogerpon core.
Yeah, the Amoonguss is very difficult to break down. You know, I think that we can take a look at the replay here. This Spore into that Incineroar was a really smart play from Alex to get the Raging Bolt onto the field and go for that Will-O-Wisp. But even the utility of the Fluttermane next to the Amoonguss was really good. Switching it out that first turn, you think, oh, you've wasted your booster energy, but getting it back in after that and utilizing the Moonblast there to just dispatch of the Rillaboom that could have been part of that pivoting core with the Incineroar. And from there, once the Terastallization was on the Urshifu, the Surging Strikes just picked apart Alex's team, making it very, very difficult to deal with.
It's a bit tough for Alex because you would surely think that the Chi and Power could be a good bring, but it's sort of a scenario where you have to be aware of the Fluttermane and be careful of it. Over on Luca's side, it's able to outspeed it with that booster energy. It can directly threaten it as well. So I feel like Chi and Power does have room to be able to be brought into this set in order to have something immediately available to dispatch of the Amoonguss, or at least force it into a water terastallization to open up your Rillaboom to be able to dispatch of it, if you know what I mean.
It's a very good option, and I think something that might be looked at going into this next one. At least that's how I would look at things. I think the other option here is the Gold Ingo, because it does have that good as gold ability. It isn't affected as heavily by the spores as the rest of the team, of course, having the immunity there. The only problem is the heavy fire types that the Luca has access to. You can see in that game one, he brought the Hearth Flame Ogopon. That's not a great Pokemon to look down on if you are a Gold Ingo, and forces almost a Terastallization. Same can be said with the Incineroar as well. That is gonna, threaten with those knockoffs. Hasn't got access to the Flare Blitz on Luca's side of the field, but can potentially do some really good work against the Gold Ingo if it doesn't Terastallize. But I do feel like that could be an option alongside what you're saying with the Chen Pao that does have that clear amulet item, not going to be affected by Intimidate, and does have that Icicle Crash, which could pick up a knockout.
However, we've got game 2 available, everybody. We've got Alex's lead of that Rillaboom Incineroar versus Luca's Incineroar and the Amoonguss. So double fire, double grass, and a lot of fake out availability.
Yeah, and I think if you are Luca in this game, you've got to protect the Amoonguss. We saw how pivotal it was in that game 1. I think that's the big thing that you need to make sure you are protecting. There is active fake out on the opposite side of the field. The Rillaboom, probably the fastest thing, so having access to that to go into the Amoonguss, potentially double up into that slot. So got to be careful here if you are Luca and try and not take an unnecessary Flare Blitz. It is threatening even from a -1 intimidated Incineroar.
Yeah, Alex wanted to go for the very safe fake out and not allow this Amoonguss to be able to go for any sort of cheeky spore plays in combination with that U-turn. So a nice pivot here. Alex wanting to try to get a bit ahead of the game right now, maybe bring in a Pokemon that's well positioned. If this is a Chen Pao with a clear amulet in the back and Luca tries to go for a parting shot, it could be a nice way to actually block that.
There's the Raging Ball that hits the field though, and getting that booster energy activated will take its special attack up 1 stage, making it hit a lot harder than it would have done before. But keeping that in check is Luca's Incineroar with the drop on that special attack, taking it back down to neutral here, and the Incineroar retreating. So it's got that Intimidate ability for later on in this match, allowing Luca to bring another Pokemon in the Raging Bolt, matching Alex step for step on the field.
And we do know that at least Luca's side, we don't have Snarl available on that Raging Ball, so maybe trying to at least guarantee the threat of the Draco Meteor into that slot. We know that Assault Vest is the most common set in terms of Raging Bolts, but it may force a Fairy Terastallization that Alex might not want to utilize straight away.
And it looks like the Terastallization is exactly what is coming out here onto the Raging Bolt, who will be going for that Fairy Terra typing to avoid any of those Dragon type attacks that could be coming down from Luca's side of the field.
And we're going to have to see what option he goes for. He goes for the Calm Mind setup here. Really nice placing, if I'm completely honest, because we know that the Incineroar may go for that side Will-O-Wisp play again. Draco Meteor, of course, it runs into a wall, that being the immunity, but no Will-O-Wisp on the side. Parting shot into the Amoonguss, perhaps anticipating more of a defensive play from Luca there.
Yeah, probably suspecting that the side Will-O-Wisp might come out, not wanting to waste it into the Raging Bolt. Looks like the Rillaboom might come out here to be able to soak up that Spore, have the immunity much better from Alex giving. Oh, it is the Sludge Bomb, though, into the Raging Bolt, and picking up the poison as well, which in turn is actually something probably Alex doesn't mind too much because it gives the immunity to that Spore.
Yeah, it's much to the detriment of your own secondary effect move not working out quite nicely for yourself, because right now there's nothing directly stopping the further Calm Minds being set up from Alex's end, especially when you have Fake Out available on your end. So all of a sudden we see why Alex is wanting to try to hone in this strategy as long as he allows room for this Raging Bolt to be able to get more setup.
Yeah, now the Rillaboom on the field for Alex does have access to that Fake Out, so can prevent something like the Raging Bolt on Luca's side of the field moving here, but opting to stop that Amoonguss this turn, going for another Calm Mind.
Going for another one. Now it is at +2 of its special defense as well. It's going to be able to resist any moves coming out from this Raging Bolt, that being the Thunderbolt, quite nicely. You see, it hits neutrally, but most importantly, the fact that we've got both increases in special attack and special defense, as well as rotating Fake Out users, is just a really good position Alex has identified.
And now this Raging Bolt on Alex's side of the field becomes a lot more threatening. You've got to notice as well that Luca's Raging Bolt has access to the Assault Vest, so it doesn't have access to Protect here. It will be susceptible to those Dragon Pulses that Alex's Raging Bolt has access to, and maybe a combination of that and then a Wood Hammer from Alex's side of the field could be the best option here, because then if you do see the Terastallization, you cover it with the Wood Hammer. I'm not saying that, you turning out for Alex to reposition.
Yeah, repositioning is sort of the name of the game here. That's sort of the element of this Fire, Water, Grass core, at least even the duo of Rillaboom and Incineroar that we've known from previous formats. But the real question here is, which target do you go for? The Dragon Pulse, is it enough to pick up the KO on Amuka?
It is.
It is indeed, and we see that that pivotal key to Luca's strategy has been knocked out, which allows more room for Alex's additional Pokemon in the back to be able to run amok.
Yeah, that's a huge turn for Alex, one step closer. We do see the poison was maybe a big advantage, but at the same time it is ticking away at the HP. Probably Alex doesn't really want that to be happening, but got to make the most of this Raging Bolt while it's still on the field. Now Luca has the active Fake Out as well as Alex, which Incineroar is going to be faster. Which one is able to get the Fake Out off before the other one? That could be quite pivotal here, especially if Alex can go for that Dragon Pulse into the Raging Bolt. Like we mentioned, it is risky because Luca has that Fairy Terror typing as well. Do you risk playing the Dragon Pulse into that slot to pick up a potential knockout, but then have it wasted by the Fairy Terror type just being used by Luca?
Yeah, I think right now it is a ticking sort of slot for that Raging Bolt, but we have the Fake Out that moves first from Alex's side. We'll be able to flinch it, but the Thunderclap, good prediction there, good read from Luca, at least guaranteeing he can get rid of the Pokemon that Alex seemed to be building his strategy around, both in Game 1 as well as Game 2.
Yeah, and you can see the real detriment of those poison ticks there, really putting it in range for that Thunderclap to pick up the knockout there. The 3 turns of poison just making it in that position where the Thunderclap just enough to pick up the knockout and showing what good utility the Raging Bolt has from Luca's side. Still got the Terastallization available to him, but Alex losing one of the big pieces of his strategy.
Yeah, and even though there has been a trade-off for essentially the Raging Bolt over on Alex's side versus the Amoonguss over on Luca's side, it's not necessarily in anyone's pure advantage. It's all going to have to come down to the final Pokemon that both of these trainers have available in the bench. We know that Luca previously brought Fluttermane. That could still be a viable Pokemon to be able to bring it in order to threaten an Urshifu if Alex has brought, which does seem to be the case.
It is the Urshifu coming out into the field. Probably not the Pokemon that you want to have out on the field in front of a Raging Bolt if you're Alex, though, because yes, you can go for those close combats, but you've got to be very careful with how you're supporting the Urshifu. It is susceptible to those Thunderclaps, and that is the big issue. You've got to get around them, but you do have the tools to be able to do that with the Incineroar and the Rillaboom. Not sticking around on the field, though, baiting almost as the Rillaboom taking its place. Going to get that grassy terrain set up once again, leaving the Incineroar to potentially get a really vital parting shot off.
Yeah, we're going to have to see if Luca is anticipating this play, but it doesn't seem to be the case, at least for now. Trying to go for the very safe Thunderbolt into the slot. No paralysis picked up. Their parting shot is going to allow this sort of pivot action to be placed from Alex's end and get that Urshifu back onto the field. So if we are seeing Luca opt to go for a parting shot here, it will be able to once again pivot himself, or he could go for the read with the Flare Blitz into the Rilla.
Just seeing the parting shot, though, coming out from the Incineroar is into that Urshifu, going to lower the attack and special attack on the Urshifu by 1 stage, and the Incineroar positioning in the back to be ready to come out, utilize that Fake Out and intimidate anytime Luca wants, revealing the last Pokemon for Luca, and it is that Hearth Flame Ogerpon.
Yeah, Hearth Flame Ogerpon being a really nice bring, especially in this scenario. It's able to directly threaten both of Alex's Pokemon, and most importantly, that parting shot, you'd normally think, oh, it's an Urshifu. It doesn't care about any attack drops, but no, it does when it's facing a Raging Bolt. It lowers its attack damage output against the Pokemon Pokemon that is so bulky and tough to be able to get rid of.
Yeah, and the Ogerpon really does threaten that Rillaboom as well. There is the option here for Luca to terastallize it, but you would say probably not the most ideal thing in front of that Urshifu here, just taking away that part grass typing. At the moment, it's probably preferable to keep that, and the Fake Out being active, coming out into that slot, stopping it from moving this turn.
Is Alex going to be able to bring this back? We're going to have to find out. Surging Strikes looking, especially with that Mystic Water, more than enough. Second hit and a third hit guaranteed does pick up the KO, but this Raging Bolt has been ignored yet again, and Alex is starting to run out of fumes in his tank.
Huge Thunderbolt coming out from the Raging Bolt into the Urshifu, but not quite enough. Luca saying, if you're going to go for my Ogerpon, that's fine. I'm going to get some utility out of this Raging Bolt. It has been left alone in a huge Thunderbolt. This Urshifu now in Thunderclap range, putting Alex in a really awkward spot, having to either protect the Urshifu or switch it out this next turn.
And the real situation that I'm identifying for Alex here is, are you able to always have Fake Out available right by your Urshifu and get those rotations going in order to sort of suppress this Raging Bolt on being able to pick up the KO? So it feels very difficult, but if there's going to be a trainer that's capable of doing it, it is going to be Alex.
Yeah, it just feels like a very hard task at the moment, especially when you've got the Urshifu solo health. Now you're going to have to try and position the Incineroar on your side of the field in. We do see the Urshifu protect here, the Incineroar going for that smart Fake Out into that slot to prevent it from moving, and we're going to see a U-turn come out from this Rillaboom into the Incineroar, so Alex can pull that Incineroar of his own onto the field and now have that Fake Out support for this next turn to potentially prevent the Thunderclap from picking up the knockout.
Yeah, exactly that. And Incineroar is so healthy, full health right now. It will be able to have that Fake Out available the subsequent turn. Thunderbolt, it does target the Incineroar, but it does very minimal damage, does not pick up any sort of secondary effect paralysis. And this is the situation, at least, that Alex is one step closer towards his strategy. He fakes out the Raging Bolt. He does pick up a KO on the Incineroar with the Surging Strikes, and then afterwards does allow another rotation of the Fake Out, switches the Urshifu out for the Rillaboom, and gets another pivot action going.
It's late in the game, but Luca waiting for the precise time to launch this terastallization onto the Incineroar, going for that Ghost Terror type to avoid and take away that Water type weakness from the Urshifu here, and avoid a potential Fake Out into this slot. Fake Out into the Raging Bolt.
Into the Raging Bolt. This Ghost Terror type is likely going to pay so much dividends here, as the Incineroar is definitely going to be surviving only barely. From the looks of things, 37 hit points available, but Luca having that foresight and being able to preserve it to the most crucial point where he's able to go ahead and pick up a burn onto the Urshifu, and Urshifu being realistically Alex's solution to getting rid of this Raging Bolt.
It's a huge play here from Luca, getting the survival from the Surging Strikes, and then the key critical Will-O-Wisp into that slot, picking up the burn, which is not only going to render the Urshifu less powerful, but going to chip away at it every single turn, especially when that grassy terrain is no longer on the field. It's not going to be able to stick around for as long as what Alex would like it to.
Yeah, it just seems like Luca had such a good strategy going into this. There's no protect, no switch out. Thunderclap is, of course, enough to get rid of the Urshifu, finally leaving Alex down to his final two Pokemon. Incineroar at least does pick up that additional Incineroar over on Luca's side, leaving Luca with a Raging Bolt. But the question is, how are you going to take this Pokemon down with a Rillaboom and an Incineroar if you are Alex?
It does feel a very tough task for Alex, but the Pokemon advantage is with Alex right now. Is going to be able to bring the Rillaboom out onto the field. Perfect timing, because that grassy terrain just ended, so you're going to have another 5 turns of it after this grassy surge sets up. You've got the Fake Out now. You know that the Raging Bolt is Assault Vest. You can go for it pretty freely into that, and then try and start and whittle it down with the Incineroar and then the Rillaboom. I think one option you could do if you are Alex is Fake Out maybe Will-O-Wisp into that slot, because then you've got that additional chip every turn, then work in your parting shots after that, weaken the Raging Bolt so it isn't being able to hit for any super, well, you can't hit super effective really into the Rillaboom. But if you can weaken it with those parting shots, it's a huge play.
Yeah, that's also damage mitigation is so key here, because in the end of the game, the game is trying to pick up KOs onto your opponent's Pokemon. So if you start nullifying the damage output, it's a really good strategy to be able to incorporate.
Yeah, and the U-turn coming out here from the Rillaboom doing tiny bit of damage there, but the Thunderbolt coming out from the Raging Bolt, and you can see the usefulness of those parting shots, followed up by a Will-O-Wisp now chipping down each and every turn that Raging Bolt with that burn status condition.
Lee, he's bringing this back. I don't know how he's doing it, but I think he's honestly being able to find a way around this Rage Bolt, even though it's going to be a bit of a sluggish back and forth between both the Incin and the Rilla pairing versus the Raging. It seems like he's still going to be able to outpace and outlast the resource that Luca has available.
Yeah, you can see the utility of the parting shot from earlier on onto the Raging Ball. I think the error that Luca made in this match was never really switching the Raging Ball out at any point and resetting those drops. So now it is not as effective, going for a last-ditch attempt with the Draco Meteor here, reducing its special attack even further. So the next turn, it's going to be hitting for way less damage, especially after another parting shot here, leaving the Rillaboom in a great position where, with that Assault Vest, doesn't really mind taking anything that this Raging Ball can throw out at it. I think the big hope here is if you are Luca, you're fishing for a Draco Meteor critical hit, because then it will ignore all of those stat drops and maybe pick up, well, it definitely will pick up the Incineroar here, but then that's one Pokemon down. You still got to worry about the Rillaboom.
And there we have it, Luca opting to go for the forfeit. They're saying, all right, Alex, you got me there, I'm not going to lie. Having those additional rotations, fake out, and the neutral hitting U-turn being the best damaging or highest damaging move that Alex could have opted into the Rage Ball is a bit funny and unexpected, if I'm honest, but it's really worked out to force a game 3.
Yeah, just showing the fortitude here completely from Alex, saying, I'm not giving up. I'm going to do everything to stay in this match. It looked really difficult after that game 1, but Alex having a pretty rough start to that game 2 as well, not having the best of starts. Obviously with the Raging Ball getting poisoned there, the tick down, the Thunder Slap picking it up, you felt that big powerhouse for Alex is gone. How is he going to deal with this opposing Raging Bolt?
As we do, of course, have a bit of a highlight preview of the Dragon Pulse being able to pick up the Amoonguss there. That was quite crucial as well. Luca didn't have the Amoonguss to be able to rely on for any sort of redirection and spore threats as well. But even though Alex's Raging Bolt did go down, that core of the Rillaboom, the Incineroar, and the Urshifu just proved to be able to win in this battle of attrition that, even though it was slowly, it was definitely going in Alex's favor.
Yeah, and we saw this huge turn here where the fake out coming into the Ogerpon, preventing it from attacking here, and then the Surging Strike's enough to pick up the knockout there. Great turn from Luca as well, going for that Ghost Terrestrialization to avoid any potential fake out coming into that slot, and a really crucial Will-O-Wisp off the back of that, but smartly Alex not taking the risks. Shutting down that Raging Bolt was the most important thing there, and getting some damage onto that Incineroar, which really proved pretty pivotal in the end of the game.
It did, so I am curious to see how we're going to be going into this game 3. Are they going to be the same leads? Are they going to be the adaptations? We're going to find out right now, as Alex has led with the Rillaboom and the Incineroar versus Luca's change-up of the Fluttermane, as well as that Ogerpon.
Double fake out on the field for Alex here with that Rillaboom and the Incineroar. Obviously only going to be effective into that Ogerpon slot, so a pretty easy switch here if Luca does feel like the fake out would be coming in there. You could also just go for a spiky shield, get some additional damage onto whatever targets into that slot, because the Rillaboom is under a lot of pressure here from that Ivy Cudgel. The Fluttermane is in a pretty nice position here to get some damage off into the Rillaboom, but probably not in a great position against the Incineroar, because the Incineroar not really going to be too worried about the Moonblast damage here and can do some nice big damage in return.
Yeah, and I think given how Game 2's pace went, both of these trainers, it feels like at this current moment, want to go a bit on the offensive, at least from Luca's side, bringing that Fluttermane straight off just gives a bit of a hint on him wanting to try to wrap things up and at least dispatch of one of the core point of contacts of a Pokemon over on Alex's side.
Well, we are going to see the Terrestrialization turn 1 here from Luca. It is on the Ogerpon. It is going to activate that Embody Aspect ability, get a +1 to that attack, undo the Intimidate, but the fake out coming into that slot, preventing it from attacking this turn.
Preventing it, however, the Moonblast targeting the Rillaboom, dealing very minimal damage thanks to that Assault Vest, but the curious point is, does this Rillaboom go for a Woodhammer? No, it goes for a U-turn in order to get that additional subsequent positioning available for Alex. You pivot, you get that new fresh Pokemon in, likely to be perhaps that Raging Bolt if he so chooses to get a setup of Carmines going.
Yeah, Luca diving in very early with the Terrestrialization. It might make Alex's job a little bit easier deciding what to bring in from the back because of that commit to the Terrestrialization. The Urshifu's in the back can come in. You've still got to be very careful with your Urshifu though, of course, because if you do bring it in, you have to worry about that Fluttermane unless you're happy to Terrestrialize it. If you are, Alex, and that's exactly what we see come onto the field.
That may be a point of review that Alex took into consideration given the previous game. At least being able to negate those super effective Fairy-type moves from a Fluttermane really puts you in a lovely spot, and you can directly threaten the Ogerpon. However, you need to try to at least allow the Rillaboom or some sort of fake-out support to be on your side whilst you're attempting to do so.
Yeah, and that's a big thing. I think if you do Terrestrialize as well with that Urshifu, you become susceptible to the Stomp and Tantrum that is there on that Ogerpon, and also you've got the Power Whip to worry about as well, especially under this grassy terrain. Now, it's had the attack boost. It hasn't got the Intimidate there to support it, so do you commit to it if you are, Alex, or do you wait and bide your time? Because there's no real immediate need to do that now. You can protect, pivot out with the Incineroar, get maybe a parting shot onto the Fluttermane if you feel confident to do so. Not choosing to do that. Incineroar getting out of there. Yeah,
getting out of there whilst the Rillaboom is tagging in, wants to be able to provide the lovely support of Fake Out for Urshifu. However, the Terrestrialization is out. It is the Fire typing. Does this Urshifu go on the offensive?
Looks like it might be going on the defensive, and if the Ogerpon is staying on the field, it cannot protect in front of this Urshifu. Taunt coming out into the Rillaboom, preventing what was that Incineroar from potentially going for a Will-O-Wisp. The Power Whip coming out, caught great by Alex. The Terrestrialization not effective as returned with that Surging Strikes. One hit. 2 hit, gonna be enough to take down the Ogerpon.
Yeah, all of a sudden, Luca's pivotal Terrestrialized Pokemon is out of this Game 3. You do not have the mechanic to be able to switch out of your weaknesses. This is such a pivotal turn, as you can see in Luca's expression there, given the fact that Luca was aware they could have gone for the read. They were just a bit cautious from perhaps that turn 1 where Alex seemed to be a bit more of a safe play style that he was able to exhibit, but he just completely turned that offensive pressure immediately in the subsequent one.
Yeah, and now the Urshifu on Luca's side of the field entering the fray. Going to be super effective because of the water typing against that fire terror typing. Alex has to be very careful with his Urshifu going into this next turn, especially with that Unseen Fist ability. Can't even protect it in front of that Pokemon. Does have the Rillaboom though. Does have that offensive threat where you are going to be able to get big damage off with either Grassy Glide, either the Wood Hammer as well. So something that Luca does need to keep in mind. And the Fluttermane not in a position to do the damage to that Assault Vest Rillaboom here.
Oh, there it is, the Fake Out rather than any sort of Grassy Glides. Moonblast trying to target this pesky little Rillaboom that seems to be doing so much for Alex's team. But the close combat, you do not have an Intimidate drop. It deals so much damage. But most crucially, we know now the Urshifu is threatened by that Grassy Glide KO. Focus Sash is broken, of course, and Luca is going to have to really think through the next following turns.
Yeah, because the Urshifu here now is 100% in Grassy Glide range. Do you switch out the Urshifu, preserve it for later on when you know there's a fire type out on the field now for Alex, and there's another one in the back in that Incineroar? You need to keep that Urshifu protected, utilizing the Fluttermane. It's in a pretty nice position right now. It's not really threatened from the Rillaboom because I think you're covering the Urshifu, and like we see that, it is switching out.
It is switching out, and it is going to be switching the Incineroar in. Intimidate, of course, will be able to come out, but most crucially, we've got yet again the Fake Out pressure available on this subsequent turn. Aqua Jet targeting down that Incineroar. Thanks to the Intimidate, it's not going to be dealing as much damage. Moonblast, double focus into it, just being able to bring it straight into the orange. However, Wood Hammer comes out and does pick up the KO onto the Fluttermane, and all of a sudden we've got a 4 versus 2 deficit that Luca is going to have to try to crawl out from.
A huge turn here from Alex, looking like an obvious play into the Urshifu, picking that up but not concentrating on it, going for the Fluttermane and the Wood Hammer enough to pick up a huge knockout, huge advantage here from Alex. He's playing phenomenally.
He really, really is. And even though the Amoonguss is now available on the field, it likely should have come in a bit earlier. You see the forfeit. Luca has put that in, and it is looking like Alex Gómez is made it through into the semi-finals.
Absolutely incredible scenes here in London for the European International Championships. You can see the joy here from Alex Gómez celebrating with all of his friends and making his way into the top 4 of this tournament.
And what way to be able to completely bring that back from the brink of being knocked out, especially in the top 8 right now, especially the fact that Luca did win that previous set in round 15. So Alex, against all the odds, was able to go through that sluggish game to somehow find a win condition against the Raging Bolt and then just completely bring it back in game 3.
Just incredible. It looked so bleak for Alex after that game 1. Luca looked so in control of that match. But Alex not giving up. And I think it's so good to see Alex being able to turn the table and really just clinch at any opportunity he had in that game 2, relying on what it came down to, the Incineroar and that Rillaboom to get him through those final stages of game 2, tying it up and then going into game 3. Not worrying about what happened in game 1 and game 2 and taking some big risks, big chances, clutching them, getting them right, taking himself into this top 4.
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna go for the big plays, you need to be able to do them here and now. This final critical game 3 just goes to show that Alex, obviously we know he's a previous IC champion, going to further promote his virtue in being able to identify it. Luca did have the opportunity to go for the read, but that Woodhammer one-hit KO into the Flutter Mane pretty much sealed up this affair and was able to completely catapult Alex straight through to the semis.
That was the turn. The Woodhammer into the Flutter Mane. We were just saying how safe it was in that position because all the emphasis at that point was on the Urshifu. It seemed like the obvious play. Alex taking a step further than that, identifying, okay, there's an opportunity here for me to go after the Flutter Mane. The Woodhammer is going to pick up the knockout. If I get this, it locks the game up pretty much in my favor. So incredible play from Alex. But we are ready over on the stage to hear from Alex himself with Charlie, so we'll throw it over and get some insights into this top 8 game.
What a way to kick off our top 8 trainers. Alex Gómez is going through to the top 4. Alex, it is roars of the crowd. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling amazing. Look at this, it's unbelievable. Thank you so much to all of them for cheering for me. Yeah, I'm really happy. I wanna win this tournament. It's the first top 8, well, actually top 4, which I'm playing with Movistar Koi, so it feels amazing to be here, and hopefully we take it home this time.
Hopefully we'll have to see how things play out, Alex. So in that game 1, that went over to your opponent. Managed to outplay you quite well. Talk to us about that game 1.
Well, I think the matchup overall, it's really tricky for me. He has Incineroar, Amoonguss plus Ogerpon Fire. Binds my team really hard. I don't have many switch-ins, and in the end I came down with the game plan of Incineroar plus Rillaboom. I think that was, I could play some mind games with him, which in the end, for example, in game 3, when he downed my Incineroar and I ended up switching, I think that was clutch in the series. So yeah, I'm really proud of taking this, and let's see what happens next.
Yeah, you played it so well, and I want to call out the side Will-O-Wisp into your Raging Bolt so it wouldn't fall asleep as well. What were you thinking at that point?
Can you repeat the question?
Sure, yeah. You did the side Will-O-Wisp into your Raging Bolt to prevent it from falling asleep. Is that a strategy that you've done a lot this weekend?
Well, Amoonguss is slightly difficult for my team, so one of the ways of actually dealing with Amoonguss is self-Will-O-Wisping my Raging Ball. If I keep calm minding and then I can Dragon Pulse the Amoonguss, if they don't have Terra Fairy, that's a good match for me. In this case, in particular, he had Terra Water, so that actually helped. In the end, in game 1, when I went for the Will-O-Wisp, I think it was a mistake. I had to fake out the Amoonguss and then possibly focus the Amoonguss with Flare Blitz plus Dragon Pulse. I think that was when he got advantage in game 1.
Okay, I understand. And then in game 2,
Yes.
it was just your Incineroar and Rillaboom against the Raging Bolt in the end, and you're just chipping away.
Yes.
How were you feeling then? Did you think you could do it?
Yeah, I was 100% sure that I had it. In the end, if he wants to KO's my Rillaboom, he has to lock himself into Draco Meteor. Draco Meteor will do maybe around 50%. So in the end, I can choose U-turn, parting shot, and I should have it. It was clutch actually to Will-O-Wisp his Raging Ball because there was grassy terrain, so without the grassy terrain, he wouldn't recover and get chipped as well. So
Yeah. These are the mind games that go on in this high level of the competition, trainers. We're thrilled for you, Alex. Any shout-outs you want to give?
Yeah, shout-outs to Eric Rios, who has been helping me a lot. Shout-outs to everyone here who has been thank you. It's an unbelievable feeling. Thank you to my parents, my girlfriend, Movistar Goitu, Kanekro especially. And yeah, thanks everyone for this moment.
Congratulations to you, Alex. Trainers, our top 8 has only just got started. Back to you guys.